Marshall Ferguson here for CFL.ca at the site of the 2023 Grey Cup here in Hamilton. Looking forward to seeing what the second half of the season looks like for the West Division teams. But at the midway point, it's time to get some report card grades. As it is August and the kids are thinking about heading back to school, let's begin with the Edmonton Elks. For a lot of fans, obviously, this feels like an F. This is not where the team expected to be. I give them a D at this point because I think there are some signs of life in the organization. They're looking for answers. They're trying to figure out, can Jared Daggy be a good quarterback moving forward? Is Trey Ford the answer? These are things that you have to do and try and experiment with. They didn't think they'd be in that experimental phase at the midway point of 2023. I know Chris Jones and everybody in the organization is disappointed. The reality is that's where they stand. Things I'd like to see them do better. It's a pretty long list. Let's be honest about this. Statistically, they don't stack up well against many teams. I think the first step is just getting better against the run. Being able to not let teams run the clock out against you as the season goes on. And their outlook for the remainder of this year, hard to believe, but they are really just trying to figure out which players should be in the lineup come 2024 at this point, because the playoffs don't look like they are going to happen for Edmonton this season. Next up for you, I have the Saskatchewan Roughriders. I have them with a C-. This is the same grade I gave the Ottawa Redblacks, who they defeated in a very, very close back-and-forth matchup just a couple weeks ago. Saskatchewan, what they've done well, I really think that they've weathered the storm of losing Trevor Harris pretty well, all things considered. They had a long road trip, went out to Halifax for touchdown Atlantic, laid a bit of a dud, had a tough game against the Montreal Alouettes as well. But when they're at home, it feels like they're a little bit more comfortable. Victories against Ottawa and Calgary, I'd like to see them take some of those winning vibes on the road, and hopefully that will help them out for the remainder of the season. My outlook for the remainder of the year for the Saskatchewan Roughriders is that you have to be able to find the consistency that you had in Trevor Harris earlier on. If you can't, it could be a rough stretch and you might be looking at a lack of playoff berth in 2023. Just ahead of the Saskatchewan Roughriders, I have the Calgary Stampeders. The grade I've given them here on the report card at midseason, C+. They feel like they should be a B or a B- club, but it's been really frustrating trying to find them have a little bit of a level balance and just play even kiltered. Why? So many injuries. I think they were going to lean on Kadeem Carey throughout this season. Jalen Philpott's been out for a big chunk of the year, might not be back this season. James Vaughters done for the season at this point. On and on the list goes. Malik Henry alongside Peyton Logan. They have really struggled to keep their best players on the football field, and that lack of consistency has cost them throughout the year with a couple of losses that I don't think they would have had, all things considered. What I like that they've done, they've found a way. They've brought extra players in from around the league. They've been able to trade for some players. They've signed some players. They've found Dedrick Mills, who had a big game at home. They're trying to find solutions, as you would expect a Dave Dickenson coached and led team to try and do on the fly. Defensively, the Calgary Stampeders, they've only given up 14 completions of 30 yards or more, but 8 of those 14 have gone for touchdowns. When Calgary gets beat deep, it's an absolute backbreaker. That's something they have to fix as the season goes on. And in my outlook, it's an uphill battle right now for the Stamps to try and make their way above 500. They've got a tough schedule. They're going to be taking on, of course, the BC Lions and the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, the top 2 teams in the West Division as the season goes on. Pretty good number of times. We'll see how they fare, but Calgary feels like the season is a little bit in the balance here at the midway point. Next up, the BC Lions. I have them with a B+ grade at this point. The third-ranked team for me on this report card grade between the East and the West. I love what BC has been able to do. I do. I think that the way that they've transitioned from Nathan Rourke to Vernon Adams, and even when Dane Evans had to come in as quarterback for the Lions, they have found a way with Jordan McSimic, their offensive coordinator, to piece it together, find solutions, and stretch the field, which leads me to something I'd like to see them do better. They've got 76 attempts of 30 yards or more down the field so far this season. They're not having a hugely successful year pitching it deep. Part of that is Dominique Rhymes being out to injury for a chunk at the start of the season, but they do have the third best efficiency rate on those deep passes. If they can improve that number with how often they want to go deep, their average depth of target is 12.3 yards per attempt. That leads the CFL. BC could absolutely go into anywhere, be it a playoff game in the West Division or the Grey Cup right here in Hamilton, and they can beat anybody with a couple of those big shot plays. The outlook for the season for the BC Lions, it's going to come down to a late season matchup at home against the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, the rubber match as they stand 1-1 in the season series right now. And what can they do in the playoffs? It feels like their success is going to have to go through Winnipeg. You want to be the best, you've got to beat the best. and BC has their eyes squarely set on my top team in the West Division for this report card, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. They have an A grade for me. The only reason that they do not have an A+ grade is the loss they had to BC earlier on in the season. I think that they've got some room to grow, but there are so many good things to say about the Winnipeg Blue Bombers right now. Leading the league in rushing attempts, second in the CFL in total rushing yards per game, but much of that from ahead when they're trying to grind out clock. Brady Oliveira has been sensational. Dalton Schoen has shown that it's not just a one-year anomaly of him being Rookie of the Year. Zach Collaros is up to his old ways, being efficient as well. If they can shore up their protection a little bit, some of the games they've struggled against BC specifically, I think that they absolutely deserve to be an A grade at this point. What I'd like to see them improve on, there's not a lot of weaknesses in this group. They are solid from top to bottom, and I do think that over time that will show out in the second half of this season. And their outlook, how great can you be? Can you push greatness to a new level? Can you find a way to absolutely deny every team in the CFL a chance to be Grey Cup champions? If they were able to win right over my shoulder here at Tim Hortons Field, it would bring back sweet, sweet memories for Mike O'Shea and his club of 2021 when they experienced Grey Cup championship glory. For all things Canadian Football League coverage heading into the second half of this season, make sure that you stay locked to CFL.ca.